When Sweden designed the Gripen fighter jet, it wasn't trying to build the biggest or most expensive aircraft in the world. It was trying to build the smartest, the most adaptable, a jet that could survive when everything else failed. And today, that very jet might be about to change the course of a war. If Sweden decides to provide Gripen fighter jets to Ukraine, the balance of air power in Eastern Europe could shift dramatically. Because this isn't just another airplane entering the fight, it's a system built to outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast much larger enemies. Since 2022, Ukraine's skies have been a deadly mix of missiles, drones, and air defense fire. Russia's air force has relied on standoff strikes and long-range bombardments, while Ukrainian pilots have fought with aging Soviet-era aircraft that struggled to match modern Russian jets. But that started to change when Western aircraft, especially the F-16, began arriving in Ukraine in 2024. The F-16s gave Ukraine something it hadn't had before: real control over parts of its own airspace. Suddenly, Ukrainian pilots could intercept cruise missiles, defend major cities, and even strike Russian positions with precision weapons. Yet, as effective as the F-16s are, they come with limits. They require large air bases, complex maintenance, and expensive flight hours. And that's where Sweden's Gripen comes in. The Gripen is built on a different philosophy. It was designed for Sweden's defense needs during the Cold War, a time when the country expected to fight alone, possibly after its main bases were destroyed. Engineers asked a simple question: how do you build a jet that keeps flying even if the country's infrastructure collapses? Their answer was the Gripen. The aircraft can take off from a normal highway. It can be refueled and rearmed by a small ground crew using only a truck. In less than 20 minutes, it can return to the air for another mission. That single feature alone could give Ukraine enormous flexibility. It means Ukrainian pilots could operate Gripens from hidden road bases, scattered across the country, making it nearly impossible for Russia to destroy them all. But the Gripen's advantages go far beyond logistics. It's one of the most network-connected fighters in the world. Inside its cockpit, the pilot sees a digital picture of the battlefield built from multiple sources: radar data, infrared sensors, and electronic signals, all combined into a single, live map. The jet's computer helps process this flood of information, allowing the pilot to see first, act faster, and make better decisions under pressure. In modern air combat, information is everything. The side that detects the enemy first almost always wins. And Gripen's sensor fusion gives Ukraine the ability to track, identify, and engage threats more effectively than ever before. Another critical edge is electronic warfare. Russia has relied heavily on jamming and radar interference to protect its aircraft and missiles. The Gripen was built specifically to counter that. It can analyze incoming electronic signals in real time, jam enemy radars, and deploy countermeasures automatically. It doesn't just defend itself, it can also disrupt Russian communications and targeting systems. This electronic agility gives the Gripen something unique: survivability. Even against advanced air defenses like Russia's S-400, the jet has a higher chance of slipping through radar networks, completing its mission, and returning safely. The Gripen can also carry a wide range of NATO weapons: air-to-air missiles like the AIM-9, AIM-120, and IRIS-T, precision bombs like the GBU-12 or BK-90 cluster munitions, even anti-ship missiles such as the RBS-15. For Ukraine, that means compatibility with nearly all the munitions it already receives from its Western allies. There's no need to develop or buy new weapon systems. The Gripen can use what's already in Ukraine's inventory. Then there's the cost. Operating a Gripen costs roughly $4,000 per flight hour. For an F-16, that figure is nearly double. It's a small number in isolation, but multiplied across hundreds of sorties, the savings become enormous. In a war where Ukraine's defense spending already consumes more than half of its national budget, every dollar saved means another day of resistance. From a tactical perspective, Introducing Gripens could give Ukraine a new level of tempo in the air war. These jets could intercept drones, patrol major cities, or strike behind enemy lines multiple times per day. Their ability to use short runways and highways make them difficult targets, forcing Russia to spread its reconnaissance and missiles across a much wider area. Every time Russia has to reposition its air defenses or divert bombers, it loses efficiency. Over weeks and months, that kind of pressure matters. The Gripen might not win battles on its own, but it can force Russia to fight harder, spend more, and cover more ground. For Sweden, supplying Gripens would be a historic decision. For decades, Sweden maintained military neutrality, focusing on self-reliance and diplomacy. But the invasion of Ukraine changed everything. Sweden joined NATO, strengthened its defense industry, and began working more closely with Western allies. Sending its top-line fighter jets into Ukraine's skies would symbolize a new phase, one where Sweden plays an active role in defending European security. It would also be a strong political message to Moscow. The Gripen's arrival would tell Russia that Western support for Ukraine is deepening, not weakening. It would signal that even smaller NATO countries are willing to contribute their best technology to keep Ukraine's skies defended. Now, how would Russia react? Likely with frustration and escalation. Moscow would condemn the move, threaten retaliation, and attempt to destroy the jets on the ground. But the Gripen's design minimizes that risk, because it can disperse and operate from multiple hidden locations. Taking them all out would be nearly impossible. Russia might also deploy more S-400 and S-500 systems near the front, or increase its use of long-range missiles. But Gripen's electronic warfare suite is tailor-made for that kind of environment. It can jam radars, evade tracking, and feed valuable data back to Ukraine's command network. Every engagement would provide more intelligence, allowing Ukraine to fine-tune its tactics. There's also the question of pilot training. Transitioning to a new aircraft type is never easy. Ukrainian pilots have already trained on F-16s, which share some Western avionics standards, but the Gripen has its own systems and software. Fortunately, it was built to be simple. Saab designed it so that a pilot could learn to fly combat missions after just a few months of training. The same goes for maintenance. Crews can service it with minimal equipment and limited personnel. So, while it will take time to integrate, Ukraine won't face the steep learning curve seen with more complex jets like the F-35. Within months, the Gripen could be fully operational. The impact of that integration would be felt quickly. Imagine Ukrainian Gripens flying alongside F-16s. The F-16s focus on deep strikes and suppression of enemy air defenses, while Gripens handle air patrols, drone interception, and electronic warfare. Together, they'd form a layered, flexible air defense system capable of adapting to any threat. It would also improve Ukraine's ability to share data with NATO allies. Gripen's communication systems are designed to work seamlessly with NATO standards, meaning every flight would contribute to a broader network picture. Ukraine's air defenses would no longer act alone. They'd be part of a synchronized system stretching from Scandinavia to the Black Sea. In practical terms, this means faster reaction times, fewer wasted intercepts, and more precise targeting. When a Russian bomber takes off or a missile launch is detected, Gripens could relay the information instantly to allied systems. That's how modern warfare is fought, not with isolated jets but with connected networks. The Gripen's arrival could also influence Russia's behavior. Knowing that Ukraine has modern, agile fighters on constant patrol might deter future air raids or missile attacks. It could force Russian pilots to operate farther from the front, reducing their ability to support ground forces. It's the kind of quiet deterrence that shifts the psychology of a battlefield without firing a shot. But perhaps the most interesting part of the Gripen story is what it represents. Sweden built this jet to maintain independence, to ensure it never had to rely on another country for its own defense. In many ways, Ukraine is following a similar path. Cut off from Soviet supply chains, it's learning to innovate, adapt, and survive with whatever tools it has. The Gripen embodies that spirit. It's a product of engineering creativity and strategic necessity, qualities Ukraine has demonstrated since day one of this war. If the two come together, the result could be more than a military alliance. It could be a partnership built on shared resilience. No one believes Gripen alone will end a war, but wars are often decided not by single weapons, but by accumulation, small advantages that combine to shift momentum. Gripen's speed, flexibility, and cost efficiency make it one of those advantages. Over time, those advantages add up. Imagine a typical day a few months after Gripens arrive. Early morning, two jets take off from a concealed road base near Poltava. They intercept a wave of incoming drones, neutralizing them before they reach the city. Later that afternoon, another pair carries out a precision strike on a radar site near the front.